ask you, but I changed the photo that you gave me, so I got that really cool photo of you up on the desert, in the desert on a mountain. Um, so you're looking good with your shades on. Um, you're in work mode, and then I also started a Periscope on this as well, so you may have some questions coming in.
Okay.
So, hey, I'm plugged in, Jay. I'm plugged in.
Nice. I like it.
So, all right. So, I know that we talked about, a little bit about kind of the purpose of this call, and this is for you, Jason. This is your story, and talk to our audience a little bit about, you know, things that you know, as your brand separate yourself from everything else out there. Some of the things that you do that you absolutely love. Advice for college kids coming in, or young professionals trying to figure out, do I go to sports? Is there really a piece of the industry in, say, for a brand like Red Bull that could actually make a living, having fun, producing great events, or do I have to work for a team? And then, what is the things that you wish you knew then what you know now? So
Okay. Yeah.
what's all the crap that I learned along the way that, oh shit, 'cause I know I got a ton of them. So
Yeah, definitely.
so let's start off with, start off with, how story before about how you were there way back when in California.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So I started out actually in Miami.
Oh,
After graduating high school, I bopped around Chicago for a little bit and then moved down to Miami and just fell in love with the beach. My family had relocated there, and I was just, it's either scrape ice off the cars up in the up in the Chicago area or I head down. So took off for the warmer climate of Miami, and back then that was when skating, rollerblading was getting really big, and just everybody was outside. Everyone was happy. It's 80 degrees in December. So I kind of became a beach bum and just was really trying to find my way as well, because I hadn't settled into a career I wanted to go to. Unfortunately, my first foray at college, it did not go well. I just didn't get the grades that I needed to, and wasn't able to maintain my status on the wrestling team at the school, and things didn't work out. So kind of hit the reset button, went down, and amongst the whole skating crowd, I was working at a skate shop, just living that life. I had a lot of friends that had a lot of talent and had the potential to eventually probably become professional. And for me, I did not have a lot of talent, but I had the talent of gab. So I could pretty much talk to anybody, and was pretty handy with the saw and screwdriver. So we came up with this scheme that we'd be able to kind of afford our skating habits of buying new skates and taking trips to go to different events around the state by putting up a ramp at the boardwalk. And I was the person who was kind of the master of ceremonies with my megaphone out there and a bucket, collecting cash from the tourists while all the other friends entertained them with the show. And that was pretty much how we kept our crew going for years.
awesome.
So
So it really just, you knew it's like it's that self-awareness, right? You know that your game was in the hustle, right? It's in the
exactly,
hustle.
exactly.
Yeah, it was in the hustle. And so you were able to identify that in you earlier on.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I was, had gone back to school, was going to community college, actually made the national dean's list, was doing fantastic at school, but just kind of knew that I needed to make some decisions on where I wanted to go with my career. And with action sports really starting to take off, not to date myself, but this was back in the early 90s, so 94 with the first X Games happening. Those were opportunities where I was thinking, okay, do I really stick it out and go for the degree, or do I try to pursue this path of really getting in and trying to make a name for myself in the industry? And I chose the latter.
So how did you transform over from, kind of what you guys were doing on boardwalks for tourists to making this a professional career?
Well, the break, I should say the lucky break came when those tours were going around, and there was a lot of offshoot events that were happening within each of the sports, within BMX, within skateboarding, within rollerblading. And those events were going to different cities. And Miami was, tourism mecca. It just became a place where there was bound to be something to come down. So with the couple of events that came around, I just, made myself known that I was a local resource and just got out there. And whether it was, swinging a hammer or just helping to promote, getting flyers out, running as a production assistant, whatever, just made myself known that I was available and made sure that I was always the first person to get there, the last person to leave, and just trying to leave that lasting impression and build the relationships. So, first big break came from a guy by the name of Mark Bradford, who was, he was one of the crew chiefs that were building the ramps. And they finished with an event down in Miami Beach. And 2 weeks later, they were going up to the X Games up in Newport, Rhode Island. And, he just told me, he said, hey, if you can make it up, we'll make sure to get you a place to crash. It might be on someone's floor or whatnot, but we can get you a steady 3 weeks worth of work and, make it up there and we can include you on the crew. So that was the first time I, packed up everything in the car and just drove all the way up to Newport and ended up, working up at the X Games and everything, came back and just kind of bounced around testing the waters at all of these different events and just trying to build a name for myself.
Awesome. So you knew. I mean, that's such a huge learning right there, right? It's just sometimes you just got to dive in what you feel is right, and you feel like, oh shit, man, I think I landed on something pretty cool here, and not
Absolutely.
figure. You can't really think about how am I going to make money doing this at first. It was almost like I know this is what I want to do. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the same as when you start a business, you don't just drop everything and then start that business. You plan it, you kind of project it, your roadmap where you want to see yourself go. And for me, I was lucky. Fritz's Skate Shop back down in Miami Beach. Any of the people from Miami would know about that one. It's almost world famous. It was great because they were flexible enough to let me bounce out and test the waters and really try to get my name out there, but still have a hub to go back to. And I was helping out managing their location there. So that really helped out to be able to just, really fire at it. I knew the path that I needed to go, but it was great to have a home base to bounce out of.
So how did you? So did you own your own business for a while then? I'm sorry.
I did. So after a while, I was working just events all over the world, and I was lucky enough, blessed enough that it was a time when ESPN was taking the X Games internationally. So we were doing events in Brazil, doing events in Europe, doing events over in Asia, and as well as the events that were happening in the United States. So working on all of those events, I worked my way up to be the competition director for everything inline. So I was working with ASA Entertainment was the name of the company. I was working with them, and then suddenly the transition happened. As we all know, rollerblading just really fell out. And it was something where ESPN wanted to go a different direction, so they wanted a fresh take on it. ASA had the contract since '94, and they really felt like, hey, we need a change. We need something that's a little bit of fresh blood, but we also need a little bit of some just experience that's in there as well. So they had approached me about possibly taking over the contract to manage all of the international X Games events.
Wow.
And that's when I started my company along with my partner, Chris Fowler, who had also been working with all of these events for so long. That's when we started Mixed Ride Media, and we became the international competition directors for all of the X Games events.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. It was exciting. It was a good time.
How much did you learn there as a business owner about cash flow, expenses that you've been able to take over, to what you're doing now?
I tell you what, that was the time when I would say, kids, whatever you're going to do, definitely get that degree first, because that was the time when it was a real challenge. It really was. I feel we could have been even more successful had we had a grip of what that part of it was. I mean, we didn't sink under. We were fine. We were able to, manage it, but it was just something where we didn't capitalize on the knowledge of being able to use that cash flow to our advantage and be able to grow. Because we realized after we shut the doors down, we had a really good product. We had a completely different grassroots take on things, really from the streets. It was consumer to consumer sort of look at it, and a lot of businesses are really looking to get that. They're always broadcasting down rather than being down on the ground floor and being able to look side to side and see where it really is. So that was something it was a great learning experience. I mean, it paved the way for the rest of my career with just being able to project manage. That's probably the biggest learning was, all right, we've got a crew of, upwards of 60, 70 people that are traveling around the world in these various sports and everything. And it all rolls up to me to make sure that show stays on the road and that we deliver the right product to our client, which was ESPN. So that was an exciting time.
Oh man, it's interesting because I took a very similar path with the NFL, and when the NFL flag and youth development programs took off domestically here, they did the same thing. They hired me to kind of provide that project management, development programs, both here, in the States and then internationally. And, being in your 20s, you're so excited to be doing what you're doing and living that lifestyle. But I couldn't figure out, I didn't have the chops from a business perspective of how to scale it. How can I take the model here and how do I do it for other sports? I didn't have the bandwidth, nor did I have a mentor at the time. I had a bunch of guys who were really fired up to be doing it with me, but no one sat down. We never sat down and had that conversation and said, okay, if we can do this for the NFL, who else can we do this for?
Absolutely.
Did you feel the same way at the time?
Oh, absolutely. It was something where, and good for you guys that you guys have been able to translate that into a scalable model, because for us, that was the toughest thing. We knew we had a good product. We knew that we had the right people to execute the product. Some of the people that used to work with us with our old crew are now some of the best graphic artists that are out there. Like we used to, Tyler Shields, famous photographer, Brian Smith, famous photographer, people like that are all people that we used to work with. So the talent was there. But in terms of scaling it and everything, that's why I just have to emphasize, those college professors that are teaching you all the nuts and bolts parts that don't seem fun in college. It's not as exciting. Those are the building blocks to being able to propel it on to a great career later on. For sure. It's something that's so important to make sure that you've got the base solid to be able to move, especially in this day and age. Like we were just on the cusp of where it still didn't matter as much. And everyone who was working with our outfit before, still very successful people. But this day and age, for the kids, especially with all the information that's available, it's so important to get that base.
Oh man, I wish sports management was a major back when I was in school, but it just wasn't. Right. And,
right.
And I think later on, the one thing I learned more than anything else was how to balance the balance sheet, the P&L, all the things. Now when when we're hiring these guys right out of college, especially sports management, I mean, these kids have it down. They understand that piece of the business. They don't know from a practical standpoint. They know it from a theory standpoint, but still, they've been down that road. I mean, is that one thing? If you look back and say, "Geez, I wish I knew," that part of it more at that time, or is that something you just learned along the way?
Yeah, I learned it along the way. And right now, I feel I'm in a great place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job, But it was definitely something that I wish that I had that prior to development of our company getting started and everything back then. It would have definitely been a benefit. Whereas now it seems that the challenge is that okay, we've got to get all of the youngsters to have that base. It's a given. Our day and age, everything is so much more complex, and the way that information and data is handled is so complex, including finances, including even just from marketing strategies and consumer insights and everything. a young person has to be able to digest all of that information at a rapid pace, because they've got the next people up the chain, people like us that are telling them, hey, all right, I can instill strategy. I can teach you the direction we're going. I need this information right now. And that's with all facets of business. So that's why I feel like we would have been so much more beneficial to have that kind of training back in our day and age. Who knows where sports marketing would be today if that was available.
Do you feel like you learned more about the business that you're in now because at one point you were the guy and we were the guys that were, hauling out the pop-up tents, setting up the staging,
absolutely
operational piece? How critical do you think that is?
It cannot be replaced. It cannot be replaced. It's the most critical part of learning how to do what we do, because you cannot deliver a product. You can't deliver a product to your consumers unless you know how that product works, functions, looks, feels. You have to have a just a semblance of touch with everything that goes out there. And that comes from being the person who's out there really executing all of those pieces. You know what the quality is, the different things. It's kind of a joke that we have, and you'll know all about this, but it's almost like a zip tie that's cut wrong on a fence line could ruin your event. And I meet so many young people today that are just fresh out of school, and they've got grandiose visions. They can put together amazing PowerPoints and really just thinking so far beyond in the experience and everything, but don't understand what that means, and it just means that every single touch point, all the way down to like how doors function on site, and is there, your cable ramps, are they too tall or overstuffed? All those little pieces contribute to the consumer journey.
Yeah. The flow, it's so funny you said zip ties, because I talk about zip ties and duct tape. I don't want to see any of them,
Well, it was funny. One of my young guns, we were working on an air race, and everybody's been in the position when you're still scrimming fence line, and just everybody's pitching in. Doesn't matter how high you are up. 2 a.m, you're just lining fence line. Somebody's got the lights on the car shined on it and the radio cranking. And right. He was just like, man, I don't know why, I'm getting totally energized, and he's going along and he's just cranking it, and we're all there working as a unit. I was like, you just graduated. I was like, you just felt your first scrimmer's high. You do this long enough into the night, and you're gonna trick yourself into thinking that you enjoy it.
Oh man, it's so true. Expect the unexpected, right?
Absolutely.
Oh God, I know. I can't wait to sit down face to face with you, because I know we got some great stories to share, some classics.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, let's talk Red Bull, man. Let's talk Red Bull and kind of, I know it's one of those brands, lifestyle brands, that I think is so unique and different and sets the tone in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people realize and understand, I never knew that there was a sport event marketing division in the company, and then there's the sales channels, and I thought everybody was kind of in the event of it, business with Red Bull. You want to just talk a little bit about how the whole engine works?
Yeah, it's just it started from most people don't know, but the company started a long time ago, back in the 80s. And it was, it's a story that's very simple when we talk about entrepreneurship. I mean, one of my heroes, obviously, Mr. Modishitz, who is the one who started the company. It's just something where it's born and bred from the DNA, and with that DNA being his. We've always, as a brand, stuck to our guns in terms of just the authenticity and the way that he would like to see the world. He never had a vision for his company not being as authentic as possible and related to him. So, I can't dive too much into that side of it, because obviously I haven't been with the company that long, but I mean, it's just Authenticity is a word that we throw around a lot, but most people who know the Red Bull world just know that we just don't do things conventionally, and we don't like to sacrifice the authenticity of what we're doing for the sake of fitting in. There's no mold that's something that we're like, hey, we're going to fit into this. There's no way that it's something where we're going to let's sacrifice the way this is, or just do something the simple way in order to just get it done because we'll get mass reach. Everything that we do is just thought out, and it's thought out with our consumers in mind. Our consumers, people click on all the videos and click on all the different things we see. And we really want to make sure that when we do offer that sort of experience to the consumers, it always has our signature on it, and without giving away too much of the farm, that's a pretty simple explanation as to what we do.
How much of your day and your week is planning, and how much is execution?
Gosh, I mean, that's almost a trick question, because so much of our planning becomes execution in itself.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing that we do as a team, if we look within our sports marketing team, it's all about communication. It's all about making sure that, we're not only coming up with good ideas, but we're communicating with each other as to what it can look like as the ideal grows and how it gets executed. And that idea can be as big as, it can be as big as something like Stratos, which, you remember stopped the world for a minute when, the energy drink company sent the guy up to space and he skydived out, which the project was so much deeper than what the public knew. It can go that deep, or it can be something, where we're talking about we want to seed some opinion leaders some product because we saw this basketball player who, had a can with them on the side of the court. And, or it was, he was, leaving the practice arena and driving away and was drinking a can of Red Bull. And we might say, okay, you know what? He's a consumer. I mean, we didn't give that to him. He bought it on his own, everything. Let's stoke him out. Let's send him a cool package or something just to say thanks for supporting the brand. It's really every one of those are projects, but we like to communicate as much as possible on, just before we do those things.
So what's next for you? What's next for you in just your life, your career? Where do you kind of, where do you go? How do you grow what you're doing? Is it more about being really, really successful with what you're doing in your market and kind of making a name for yourself in your region?
Well, it's so much. Honestly, it's so much more about just following passions at this point. Working with my career and everything. I mean, I was lucky enough to get a chance to join this amazing brand, and once I joined the brand and really started working, and it's the saying goes, you never know how deep the rabbit hole goes until you dive into it. This was definitely one of those situations. Because there's just so much in the world that our brand covers. So it's just really following what my passion is. Right now it's sports, and it's been sports for a very long time. And there's just so much to be uncovered from a sports landscape. I mean, just as you guys have seen, we didn't think that sports peaked out, but we thought that we knew of all of the sports that were really relevant. We thought we knew of all of the sports that were the ones that were, all right, these are the ones that are going to be accepted. And then social media comes up and YouTube comes up, and next thing you know, you got these guys down in Texas that are trick shotting the crap out of everything, and they call themselves Dude Perfect.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hate to say it, they invented a sport, and that sport didn't get invented because of social media and, the amount of information that's available on the internet. It got shared worldwide to where people copycatted to where, now that's a viable sport. So it's really exciting to have this access to information and be able to chase even more opportunities, to even expand what the world of sports looks like right now. So that's something that's really exciting to me.
Do you see, and just along those lines, because it's something that we live in every day too, it's like, long gone are the traditional, marketing advertisement channels.
Yep.
It's like print, TV, radio. A lot of people will tell you it's absolutely dead, although there's $80 billion still spent in advertising globally, within
Hmm.
those three platforms. Do you see has your job or your business gotten easier because of examples like Dude Perfect, just to organically grow opportunities that, it's not going to take a lot of heavy lifting to get? It's just really paying attention in the marketplace, or, you know,
Um, I wouldn't say it's gotten easier. I'd say that we've gotten more efficient because of, literally it's all about paying attention. It's about really looking at what consumers are doing, but truthfully digesting it.
yeah,
It's an argument that's out there all the time. Television's dead. Everything is going to online subscribership. Everything is chasing after this part. And, they say that the numbers of people that are watching television compared to online has gone down. And, I'm one of the people that I dispute that. I just think that there's just a lot more time that people are spending digesting content, because it's not that cable viewership has gone down. It's not that cable subscriptions have gone down. There's just ways now that everything in between cable, how it is. I'm walking to Starbucks during lunch. Cool. Let me look at my phone and see what's on there. See if I can digest one of the video links that somebody sent me or something. It's just, you have so much more access to it that I think people are just using it more. And especially the younger generation is definitely not using cable and everything as much because the instant gratification is really where they want to go. But everyone's still watching the Super Bowl. Everyone's still talking about the ads from the Super Bowl. Everyone's still talking about the ads, when you see an advertisement that comes up, and it could be something that plays, during a program. It's like, during The Walking Dead or one of those really popular ones where people still are catching the terrestrial broadcasts, and then they're watching that advertisement 20 million times on YouTube afterwards. So I think it's just the rate of consumption and the amount of consumption has really gone up. But for us, it's just always about staying in tune and seeing what people are doing, seeing where people are going to get that content and where the frequency is and making sure that we're there.
Well, I think the one thing that you keep on talk about a lot, and we talk about it all the time in our business, and when I do keynotes or I do guest appearances and discussions with colleges or nonprofits or kind of private parties with sales meetings, the one thing I say a lot is I talk about find your purpose and combine it with your passion. And
Yes.
and Jason, I just congratulate you for figuring this out, and I think that's why I say a lot of the things that you're saying is just like, oh my gosh, my route was this very, very similar of, I just didn't know what I wanted to do either. And not to that degree. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to get there to where I wanted to be. And
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about you found your passion, you took a chance, you couch surfed and floor surfed in hotel rooms to do this. You figured out a way to how to carve out a living and a career, and a great career with a major global brand. And so just to talk about that, follow your passion, figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
willing to sleep on a hotel room floor to be a part of it. The money and the opportunities will follow. And I think you're a testament to that. You're a testament to a good guy who's smart, who's going to work his ass off. And that's why you're sitting where you are right now.
No,
So,
I appreciate that. If it's anything I can impart to,
yeah.
some of the up and coming, bright minds, so many intelligent minds, kids that are growing up in this information age have such a head start in front of us, is make sure to not forget about the bases. Like your basic pieces, the basic building blocks. You only get that experience when you're working with mentors who are wanting you to get your hands dirty, who are wanting you to do these things. Gone are the days of, interns fetching coffee and things like that, like people talk about, or in our case, in our office, it would have been Red Bull, it's gone are those days. And realize that every time when you've got a mentor that's like, hey, hands you a set of gloves and we're going to go out there and we're going to go charge at it here and, just get these operational pieces done, or is making you take notes within a meeting or something like that. It's not belittlement. It's literally teaching you the basic building blocks to a good career that are things that you have to have that base. At the top, everybody out there is going to have access to the information to be able to talk about strategy and be creative and do all of those different things. But the thing that sets you apart is being able to actually manage a team that's executing all of those things on the bottom. And you can manage it perfectly because you've been there. You know exactly what they're doing, exactly what they're going through, exactly what their struggles are. And they're going to respect you that much more for it. And they're going to be willing to follow you out, into the grind with it.
Awesome. All right, man. I appreciate your time. This has been great.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that I could connect with you on this, and yeah, it's something that I'm passionate about the next generation because hopefully they're going to be the ones that are making our lives a lot easier. So.
Oh, they are. I don't think our lifetime will ever see a shift in the world of how we communicate, how we interact, how we advertise. And I think, when the people say, oh, our kids don't, that next generation doesn't talk anymore. I'm like, no, they communicate more than ever before. That cell phone, which there's more cell phones than human beings in the world, it's not going away. The smartphone's not going away, right? It's only going to get better. And, so I embrace it. I know you're right in the middle of that millennial, demographic that, you're living in that world, and so am I. And for all those old timers that sit there, or those CMOs, or, those director of marketings that think the solution is to hire someone right out of college to do their social media for them, or they say, oh, I'll let my 12-year-old granddaughter, or my, they could show me how to use Periscope. The world is passing them by really, really quick. And
absolutely. We all got to stay in tune. I've got my 18-year-old niece is she's a freshman at Florida A&M University, and we literally communicate via Snapchat. It's something that it's very scary, but she asks me questions, lets me know when her spring break schedule is, when she's coming to visit, all this stuff via Snapchat. So
awesome.
We all have to get in tune.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm Periscoping this. I'm recording this, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 12 months ago. This wasn't even part of my vernacular.
Absolutely.
So, the good thing is I got kids from 23 to 7, stop laughing, but it's the same wife. So it's a good thing. And it's the only way I stay in touch with, I ask them all the time. I got my own little focus group on, what's the next big thing? Is it Snapchat and how do you use it? But I'm learning as well. So, Jason, thank you so much for doing this and sharing your story, because it's a phenomenal story of perseverance and blue collar work ethic, and just being a good guy who's ready to grind. And I applaud you, man. I know you're gonna be the next guy. Either if you're not jumping out of a rocket ship, parasail.
I'll be sending them up then.
Sending them up, and I'm gonna bring you something for Red Bull. I'm gonna create some kind of crazy sport, and I'm gonna bring it.
And something tells me you and I spend enough time together, we can get that done.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Jason Hines, event marketing manager from Red Bull. Is there any other way that people could stay connected to you, whether it's Instagram or Periscope or?
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram is a good way to stay connected with me at MixRideJ. So in honor of Mixed Ride Media, our former company that we had out there. And then also, hit me up, friend me on Facebook. Any of you students, drop me a message. If you got any questions or anything, just ping me on there. I'm on Facebook a pretty good amount. It's the easiest way to keep track of people around the world. So
awesome. Okay, man, thanks so much. When I'm in Atlanta, we're going to go to Varsity for hot dogs. All right?
Yeah, be ready, though, because that's not the only place. I've been here for a year now, so I've got the spots I've got the spots on lock.
I'm ready. So, well,
All
thanks so
right.
much.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right, see ya.